A quarterback making $230 million just threw 6 interceptions across 4 training camp practices, and somehow, he is still the starter. Let that satisfying little piece of absurdity bounce around your brain for a second. Deshaun Watson walked onto that Cleveland Browns practice field this week with every opportunity to silence the doubters, shut down the noise, and prove that the most scrutinized contract in NFL history was worth every single penny. Instead, he handed the football directly to defenders more times than he threw touchdowns. And here is what should genuinely terrify every single person inside that organization. The interceptions are not even the most alarming part of what is happening right now. There is something buried in the full practice data that makes those 6 picks look like a minor footnote. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this situation is far worse than anyone on television is willing to admit. Before we rip this thing wide open, I need you to do one thing. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you believe Shedeur Sanders should be the Week 1 starter, or drop a skull emoji if you think Watson is completely finished as an NFL quarterback. Do it right now. I already know what that comment section is about to look like. This is Gridiron ground, and nobody else is going to tell you what I am about to tell you. Before moving further, we're pushing for 1,000 subscribers here at Gridiron Ground. If you're enjoying our Browns and Shedeur Sanders coverage, hit that subscribe button and be part of the journey. Let's build this community together. If you have been following Gridiron Ground for any amount of time, you already know we do not deal in feelings around here. We deal in facts. We deal in evidence. We deal in the kind of cold, uncomfortable data that makes front offices squirm and fan bases lose sleep. And the data coming out of Cleveland Browns training camp right now is not just uncomfortable, it is damning. Through 4 practice sessions, Deshaun Watson has completed 58 of 90 passing attempts. That gives him a 64% completion rate, which on the surface looks like a perfectly acceptable number for a training camp environment. Most casual observers would glance at that percentage, shrug their shoulders, and assume their quarterback is performing at a functional level. But completion percentage without context is one of the most misleading statistics in all of football. It tells you how often the ball arrived at its intended destination. It does not tell you what happened on the throws that went somewhere else. And where Watson's misses have gone tells a story that should send chills through every person in that building. 3 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. Read that again. 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. In 4 practices of non-contact work with no live pass rush, no game pressure, no hostile crowd noise, no September heat beating down on him. This is a controlled environment designed specifically to let quarterbacks operate at their absolute ceiling. And Watson's ceiling right now is producing twice as many turnovers as scores. Today alone, Watson threw 3 interceptions in a single practice session. 3 picks in one day. That is the kind of performance that gets undrafted free agents sent home with a handshake and a wish of good luck. That is the kind of day that ends careers for players who do not have a guaranteed contract protecting them from the consequences of their own performance. Now place those numbers directly alongside what Shedeur Sanders has done in the exact same environment over the exact same 4 sessions. Sanders has completed 64 of 91 attempts with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. 1. Across 4 full practices against the same defensive scheme, the same coverage shells, the same coaching staff evaluating every throw with the same critical eye, the rookie has thrown 5 fewer interceptions than the veteran. 5. That is not a marginal difference. That is not a statistical blip that can be explained away by sample size or practice context. That is a canyon between 2 quarterbacks sharing the same huddle, and the gap is widening with every single rep. If you are watching Gridiron Ground right now and you have not hit that subscribe button yet, understand something. This is the channel that gives you the full picture when everyone else is giving you the version that keeps people comfortable. We do not cherry pick.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Highlights. We do not soften the edges. We show you what is actually happening. And what is actually happening in Cleveland right now is a quarterback competition that has already been decided by the evidence. The numbers have spoken. But what the film reveals about why those numbers look the way they do is something that will change how you see this entire situation. Statistics tell you the result. Film tells you the process. And the process Deshaun Watson is displaying on tape right now is broken at a level that goes far beyond a bad week or a rough stretch of practices. When Watson was in Houston, his arm was one of the most dangerous weapons in professional football. He could generate velocity from any platform. He could throw accurately off his back foot while scrambling to his left with a defensive end dragging him down by the ankle. He could layer the ball over a linebacker and under a safety into the smallest possible window on an intermediate crossing route with the kind of precision that separated him from every other quarterback in the league. Watch the tape from this training camp and tell me that quarterback still exists. The ball is floating. On routes where the throw needs to arrive with authority, sharp, tight on a line, the football is hanging in the air like a punt. His out routes are drifting. His comeback routes are arriving late. The passes that require the most precise timing and the sharpest velocity are the ones where the deterioration is most visible. When a football hangs in the air at the NFL level, defenders close the gap. That is not a theory. That is geometry working against a quarterback whose arm is no longer generating the force required to beat professional coverage at the point of attack. But the arm is only part of the problem, and honestly, it might not even be the most concerning part. What is showing up on the film from a decision-making standpoint is genuinely alarming for a player with Watson's experience. He is locking onto his first read like a college freshman seeing a cover 2 shell for the first time in his life. When his primary receiver is not open within the first 2 seconds of the play, Watson is not transitioning to his second option. He is not sliding his eyes across the field the way a quarterback with 8 years of NFL experience should do instinctively. He is staring, he is waiting, and then he is forcing the ball into a window that closed a full second before he released it. One of his interceptions from today was the clearest possible illustration of this breakdown. Watson rolled to his right, fixed his eyes on a crossing route developing over the middle, and never once acknowledged the safety sitting in the intermediate zone, reading his eyes the entire way. He delivered the ball directly into the defender's chest. The safety did not have to move. He did not have to make an athletic play. He simply caught a pass that was thrown to him with the accuracy of a quarterback making a pre-snap decision to target that exact spot. That is not an arm strength issue. That is not a mechanical flaw caused by a sore shoulder. That is a processing failure. That is a quarterback whose mental clock is operating at a speed that no longer matches the speed of professional football. And that kind of breakdown does not heal with rest. It does not improve with treatment. It does not suddenly correct itself when the lights come on in September. But understanding the why behind these failures only matters if you also understand what has been happening behind the scenes to explain them away. Every single day that Deshaun Watson throws another interception in training camp, a brand new explanation arrives on schedule to cushion the impact. The excuse production line surrounding this quarterback has been operating at maximum capacity since the moment he first struggled in a Cleveland uniform. And at this point, the machinery is running so smoothly that you could set your watch by it. First, it was the adjustment period. He missed significant time. He needed reps. He needed to feel the game again after being away from competitive football for so long. That was a reasonable explanation for the first few months. Nobody argued with it. Then it was the offensive system. The playbook was complex.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
The timing routes required a level of precision that could only develop through repetitive practice. Give him a full off-season and the chemistry would come. Then it was the receiver group. New faces, new route runners, new timing. The connections needed time to develop, and you could not judge a quarterback fairly until his weapons were fully synced. Then the Achilles happened and the conversation shifted entirely. Now it is the recovery timeline. Now it is the shoulder soreness. Now it is the physical toll of coming back from one of the most devastating injuries a professional athlete can suffer. And before anyone accuses Gridiron Ground of dismissing legitimate injuries, let me be absolutely clear. A torn Achilles is a serious, career-altering injury. The recovery process is grueling, unpredictable, and deeply personal. Nobody in their right mind would minimize what Watson's body has been through over the last 2 years. But here is where the injury narrative collapses under its own logic. If Watson's shoulder is genuinely compromised to the degree that it explains 6 interceptions in 4 practices, if the physical limitation is severe enough to account for flutter balls, diminished velocity, and inaccurate throws sailing into the hands of defenders, then why is he practicing? Why is the organization allowing a physically compromised quarterback to absorb first-team reps that are actively misleading the coaching staff about what a healthy version of this player might look like? And more importantly, why is a physically limited veteran taking developmental reps away from younger quarterbacks who have earned those opportunities with their performance on the field? The phrase "weekend at Bernie's" has been circulating in certain corners of the Cleveland media, and the fact that reporters who cover this team every single day are reaching for that kind of language tells you everything about how the people closest to this situation actually feel. They see it. They know. The excuse machine is not fooling the people inside the building. It is only fooling the people outside who want to believe there is still a version of this story that ends with Watson vindicating the investment. Here at Gridiron Ground, we have never been in the business of comfortable narratives. We tell you what the evidence says, and the evidence says the excuses have an expiration date that is approaching faster than anyone seems prepared for. Hit that subscribe button right now if you want to stay ahead of every development in this story, because the young arms on this roster are about to make every excuse completely irrelevant. While Deshaun Watson has been compiling one of the most concerning training camp performances in recent memory, Shedeur Sanders has been doing something that should make every decision-maker in that building deeply uncomfortable. He has been playing quarterback at a level that makes this entire competition feel like it was settled before it ever began. 64 of 91 attempts, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Across 4 practices against the same defense running the same schemes in the same environment that has produced 6 turnovers from the veteran standing on the other side of the depth chart. But the stat line, as impressive as it is, does not capture what makes Sanders genuinely special on that practice field. It is the way he is processing information. Watch his eyes on the film. He is not staring down receivers. He is not locking onto his first read and praying the window stays open long enough to squeeze the ball through. He is scanning the field. He is reading the coverage shell pre-snap, identifying the leverage of the cornerbacks, locating the safeties, and then executing his drop with a clear plan for where the football is going based on what the defense shows him after the snap. He is throwing with anticipation, releasing the ball before his receivers have come out of their breaks because he trusts the route concept, and he trusts his own eyes to tell him where the opening is going to be before it physically appears. That is elite-level processing. That is the kind of quarterbacking that translates from college to the NFL, because it is built on intelligence, preparation, and an understanding of structure rather than raw athleticism or improvisational talent. Sanders is not winging it out there and getting lucky. He is operating within the offense the way Todd Monken designed it to be operated. He is taking what the defense gives him. When the deep shot is not there, he is coming down to the intermediate level. When the intermediate routes are contested, he is checking down and letting his playmakers work after the catch. He is making the simple throws look routine, and the difficult throws look manageable, because he is putting himself in advantageous positions before the ball ever leaves his hand. And perhaps the most telling element of Sanders' performance so far is the composure. This is a rookie. This is a player experiencing his very first NFL training camp, surrounded by professional athletes who are bigger, faster, and more experienced than anyone he faced in college. The moment is supposed to be overwhelming. The speed is supposed to create hesitation. The complexity is supposed to expose the gap between the college game and the professional level. Instead, Sanders looks like he has been here before. He looks calm. He looks decisive. He looks like a quarterback who walked into this building knowing exactly who he is and exactly what he is capable of doing at this level. That kind of confidence cannot be coached. It cannot be manufactured. It either exists inside a player or it does not. And the evidence through 4 practices suggests it exists inside Shedeur Sanders in abundance. Section 5. The 6th round ghost nobody saw coming. The Shedeur Sanders conversation has dominated the headlines, and rightfully so. A first-round pick outperforming the franchise quarterback in his very first training camp is the kind of story that generates attention regardless of the surrounding context. But buried beneath that headline is a number that should genuinely stun anyone who has been paying attention to the full scope of this quarterback room. Dorian Green, a 6th.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
Round pick. A player whose name was called so late in the draft that most fans had already turned off their televisions and moved on with their weekends by the time the selection was announced. A player who arrived in Cleveland with virtually zero expectations, zero fanfare, and zero pressure to contribute anything meaningful in his first professional summer. Through 4 training camp practices, Green has completed 14 of 17 passing attempts with 0 interceptions. 0. Let the absurdity of that comparison settle into your brain for a moment. A 6th-round rookie who was barely drafted, who most analysts projected as a practice squad candidate at best, is taking better care of the football than a quarterback being paid $230 million. That is not a quirky training camp footnote. That is a 5-alarm organizational fire. And Green is not the only young arm making Watson's position untenable. Dillon Gabriel, the 3rd-round selection Cleveland brought in as a developmental project, has gone 13 of 46 through 4 sessions with 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Those numbers are not spectacular by any measure. The completion percentage is low. The volume is limited. The overall production reflects exactly what you would expect from a young quarterback still learning the intricacies of professional football for the first time. But here is the critical detail that gets lost when you only glance at the surface of Gabriel's stat line. His touchdown-to-interception ratio is identical to Watson's. 3 touchdowns and 3 picks for Gabriel. 3 touchdowns and 6 picks for Watson. A player who is openly acknowledged as a developmental work in progress is matching the veteran's scoring output while throwing half as many interceptions. That is not a developmental player struggling to keep up. That is a developmental player highlighting the degree to which the supposed starter has fallen behind. When every single quarterback on your roster, from the 1st-round pick to the 6th-round afterthought, is either outperforming or matching the player at the top of the depth chart, the depth chart itself becomes a work of fiction. It becomes a document that reflects organizational politics and financial obligation rather than competitive reality. And what happens when this fictional depth chart meets the reality of a Week 1 opponent is something that should keep every person in that front office wide awake at night. Close your eyes and picture this scenario because it is not hypothetical. It is on the schedule. It is coming. Week 1, Raymond James Stadium, Tampa, Florida, September. If you have ever been to Florida in September, you already know what that means. The heat is suffocating. The humidity wraps around your body like a second skin that you cannot peel off no matter how hard you try. The sun beats down on that field with the kind of relentless intensity that drains your energy before the first quarter is even over. Now picture Deshaun Watson standing on that field, dropping back to pass, and for the first time since training camp began, facing a live pass rush. Real NFL defensive linemen, 300 pounds of muscle and bad intentions, collapsing the pocket around him with the kind of violence that does not exist in non-contact practice sessions. Everything Watson has struggled with during training camp, the interceptions, the processing delays, the floating passes, the locked-in reads, all of that has happened in a controlled environment with zero physical threat. Nobody has touched him. Nobody has hit him. Nobody has disrupted his platform or forced him to make a decision while a defensive end is wrapping his arms around his midsection. What happens when those elements are introduced? What happens when the pocket closes in under 2 seconds and Watson has to make a choice with a defender's helmet in his chest? The training camp evidence already tells us the answer. He panics. He locks onto his first read. He forces the ball into windows that closed before he even began his throwing motion. And that is without pressure. Add real NFL pass rush, and the projection becomes genuinely terrifying for anyone invested in this team's success. But the pass rush is not even the most compelling element of this Week 1 nightmare. The most compelling element is standing on the opposite sideline wearing a Tampa Bay Buccaneers jersey with a very specific look in his eyes. Baker Mayfield, the quarterback Cleveland threw away. The quarterback this organization decided was not good enough to lead their franchise forward. The quarterback they replaced with the most controversial and expensive trade in modern NFL history. Baker found Tampa. He found a coaching staff that believed in him, a system that maximized his strengths, and an organization that treated him with the respect and stability he never received in Cleveland. He has transformed himself into one of the most efficient and dangerous quarterbacks in the entire NFC, and he has done it with the kind of quiet fury that only comes from being told, "You were not enough." Baker has never needed.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
To say a word about Cleveland publicly. The scoreboard has been his microphone every single Sunday since he left. And now picture that revenge narrative colliding with the reality of Deshaun Watson's current performance level. Baker operating with precision and confidence against a Cleveland defense that knows the Browns' quarterback situation is a mess. Watson struggling to complete basic progressions, while his arm produces the kind of velocity that a college scout would flag as a concern on a sophomore's highlight tape. The contrast between what Tampa is putting on the field and what Cleveland is considering putting out, there is not a competition. It is a cautionary tale waiting to unfold on national television. Earlier this offseason, Deshaun Watson flooded social media with content designed to change the narrative. Workout videos showing him throwing on the run, launching deep balls, moving with explosiveness through agility drills. The production quality was slick. The lighting was perfect. The angles were carefully chosen. And the message was unmistakable. I am back. I am hungry. I am coming for everything they said I could not have. He talked about stepping on necks. He talked about taking charge. He talked about leading this franchise to a place it has never been. And in the moment, those videos accomplished exactly what they were designed to accomplish. They generated excitement. They sparked hope. They gave a fan base desperate for good news something tangible to hold on to during the long off-season months when the only thing available is projection and imagination. Comment sections filled up with believers. People watched those curated clips and convinced themselves that the Watson they remembered from Houston was emerging from the wreckage of the last 2 years, rebuilt, refocused, and ready to remind the entire league why Cleveland made the investment in the first place. Then training camp started, and 6 interceptions in 4 practices does not look like stepping on necks. It does not look like a quarterback who is coming for everything. It looks like a man who understood, perhaps even before anyone else did, that the highlight clips from a private workout facility tell a fundamentally different story than the full practice tape from an NFL training camp where every single throw is charted, measured, and compared against the other quarterbacks in the room. Highlight reel culture has been doing Watson an enormous favor for longer than most people realize. Somebody clips that one beautiful deep ball he threw on a Tuesday morning, posts it with a caption about the comeback narrative, and suddenly, the internet is convinced that everything is fine. But they did not see the 3 interceptions sitting right next to that highlight on the full practice report. They did not see the flutter balls dying in the air on 15-yard out routes. They did not see the panicked reads and the frozen feet and the football sailing into the hands of a defender who barely had to move to catch it. Here at Gridiron Ground, we show you the complete picture because that is what you deserve. And the complete picture of Deshaun Watson at this stage of his career is a quarterback at 30 years old with a reconstructed Achilles, a questionable shoulder, diminished arm velocity, and a decision-making process that has regressed to a point where rookies and late-round picks are routinely making better choices with the football. Subscribe to Gridiron Ground right now because we are the channel that respects your intelligence enough to give you the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. The realistic path back to the quarterback Watson was in Houston does not exist anymore. The physical tools have declined. The mental processing has slowed. The confidence that once made him one of the most electrifying players in the sport has been replaced by hesitation, uncertainty, and a reliance on curated content to maintain an image that the practice field no longer supports. The most courageous thing Watson could do right now is something that very few athletes at his level have ever been willing to do. Todd Monken has been careful with his words, deliberate, measured. He has told the media he wants to see how things develop when the pads come on and the full offensive system is installed before making any definitive statements about the starting quarterback job. On the surface, that is responsible coaching. You gather all available information, you evaluate the full body of evidence, and you make your decision based on the complete picture rather than reacting to individual practice sessions or daily fluctuations in performance. That philosophy sounds reasonable until you realize the complete picture has been available for months. The same patterns showing up in training camp are the same patterns that showed up during OTAs. The same decision-making breakdowns happened during minicamp. The same velocity concerns existed during the portions of last season when Watson was healthy enough to take the field. Every phase of preparation has produced the same result, and waiting for additional data points when the existing data is already screaming the answer is not patience. It is avoidance dressed up in coaching language. Every single day that Watson absorbs first-team reps is a day stolen from the development of a younger quarterback who has earned those opportunities with his performance. Sanders is completing passes at a higher rate. He is throwing fewer interceptions by a massive margin. He is processing the offense with the kind of sophistication that suggests he is ready to handle the full weight of an NFL starting job right now. Every rep he takes with the second team instead of the first team is a missed opportunity for growth that cannot be recovered later. And the financial conversation hovering over this entire situation needs to be addressed directly because it is clearly influencing the decision-making at the organizational level. The dead cap implications of moving on from Watson's contract are enormous. The guaranteed money Cleveland committed to when they executed this trade was unprecedented in its structure, and the financial consequences of officially ending the relationship are real, tangible, and significant. But dead cap money is a sunk cost. It is gone regardless of what happens next. The dollars already committed to Watson do not come back whether he starts or sits. The only question that matters is whether the organization is going to allow money that has already been spent to dictate decisions that affect the team's ability to compete and win football games moving forward. History is unambiguous on this point. Organizations that cling to declining players because of financial investment rather than on-field performance do not win championships. They win moral victories. They win the right to say they were loyal. They win the comfortable narrative that allows everyone in the building to avoid the difficult conversation for one more week, one more practice, one more day. And then the season starts, and the comfortable narrative meets the unforgiving reality of a 17-game schedule, where the scoreboard does not care about your sunk costs, or your loyalty, or your desire to avoid an awkward press conference. The courage required to make this decision is not insignificant. Benching a quarterback with Watson's contract and profile is one of the most difficult moves a coaching staff and front office can make. It requires alignment between the head coach, the general manager, and the ownership group. It requires a willingness to absorb criticism from people who will accuse you of giving up too soon. It requires the kind of organizational backbone that separates franchises who win from franchises who settle. Here is where everything lands. 6 interceptions across 4 training camp practices. More turnovers than touchdowns in a controlled environment with no live pass rush and no game pressure. Outperformed by a first-round rookie who has thrown 5 fewer interceptions over the same stretch. Matched in production by a third-round developmental prospect on half the volume. Embarrassed in ball security by a 6th-round pick who most fans have never heard of. The arm velocity has declined. The decision-making has regressed. The processing speed no longer matches the demands of professional football. The social media workout highlights tell one story while the practice field tells another, and the practice field is the only story that matters when the season starts. This is not a rough patch. This is not an adjustment period. This is the full, honest, unfiltered picture of a quarterback whose window at this level has closed. Shedeur Sanders is standing on that same field every single day proving he is ready. The evidence is overwhelming. The numbers are undeniable. The film is conclusive. The only remaining question is whether the Cleveland Browns have the courage to look at what is directly in front of them and make the decision that everyone watching already knows is correct. Drop your Week 1 starter prediction in the comments right now. Share this video with every single football fan you know, because this is the conversation the entire league needs to be having. And if Gridiron Ground is giving you the real story that nobody else will touch, subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because we are covering every single development in this quarterback battle, and we are just getting started. We will see you on the next one.